Hello and welcome to CheersToFearYT, where we take horror films and turn them into drinking games. We're your two hosts. I'm Alex.
And I'm Tucker. Today we will be looking at Annabelle Creation, the second Annabelle movie. Annabelle Creation is directed by David F. Sandberg, who used to make independent horror shorts, one in particular being Lights Out. His video eventually caught the eye of New Line Cinema that decided to ask him to direct Lights Out, which was made after his short film. After this, he went on to direct Annabelle Creation and is still currently in the movie industry, as he is also in charge of directing the Shazam movies.
Annabelle Creation starts off with a Mullins daughter tragically dying in a car accident. The film then fast forwards years later to where the Mullins decide to take in a family of female orphans. One of the more notable orphans, Janice, is one of the children that was affected by the polio outbreak and therefore not as mobile as the others.
Thankfully, Mr. Mullins has ways that she can move from one location to the next inside the house. Janice, while searching for a room in the house, gets a cryptic warning from Mr. Mullins. He says one room in particular is locked and should stay that way for a good reason.
Locked, and it stays that way.
But of course, children are curious and Janice ends up releasing Annabelle upon the house.
Before getting into detail about the drinking rules for this movie, we should warn you that we will be talking about some of the spoilers for Annabelle Creation. If you would prefer to watch the movie on your own and come back later, you know the drill. We will have the rules posted on screen now, and then please come back when you are done. With that being said, let's get into it.
Rule number 1 for each and every horror movie on Cheers to Fears is that you must take a drink whenever somebody dies. This resulted in 5 drinks in accordance with this rule.
The next rule we have is when somebody screams, cries, or yells, take a sip. When we counted this in the movie, we came up with a total of 30 times where we caught people screaming, crying, or yelling, which is equivalent to 1 full drink.
Another common rule we have on this channel is that you must take a drink whenever there's a jump scare. In Annabelle Creation, we counted 21, so therefore we took 21 sips.
This next rule resulted in us taking 13 drinks. That rule is a common one we will be using for every movie in the Conjuring universe, is when you drink for whenever you see a door open or close on its own.
Next up, we have a couple of rules that are preset for Annabelle movies. The first of which is you take a sip whenever you see Annabelle. For this rule, we also decided that you drink when you see Annabelle in different forms, such as Bee or the Scarecrow. For this rule, we took 33 sips.
The other rule that we made for Annabelle movies is that you take a sip when you see a written note. For this rule, we only counted a total of 8 drinks.
These next set of rules are made specifically for Annabelle Creation, starting with whenever you hear a bell ring. If you hear this happening, take a sip. By our count, this occurred 19 times in Annabelle Creation.
Another rule for Annabelle Creation is you take a drink when you hear You Are My Sunshine playing.
Hello?
We had to include this rule just because of how often it played throughout the movie. In total, we heard this playing 7 times.
Up next is the rule that tied deaths for the fewest count we had in the movie, being 5 drinks. That rule is whenever you hear somebody talking about the Mullins' deceased daughter, you take a drink.
What do you need?
Our final rule for this drinking game is that you take a drink whenever you hear anybody in the film say the last name Mullins. This happened quite a few times in the movie, as our drink total came to 23 for each time somebody said Mullins.
And that about wraps it up for the drinks for Annabelle Creation. And how did we do? Well, we tipped our 30 sip per can scale over with 5.5 drinks, as we had a total of 164 sips counted throughout the movie. As always, we do have to mention that we are of course talking about a standard 12-ounce can. As far as the numbers go, it could have been much worse.
I would just like to point out that every time a crucifix is seen, you drink, is not added in this drinking game. That is because the number of times it had to get mercy ruled. Where this mercy rule applied, we counted a total of 86 crucifixes in Annabelle Creation.
Yeah, so the reason we didn't include that rule is kind of obvious. If we included that rule, the drink total would have been over 200, and we probably wouldn't have made it to recording this video.
It's like Anna said in Jigsaw, games can be won.
Because games can be won.
With that being said, if we would include crucifixes as one of the rules, this game couldn't be won.
Yeah, pretty much. And the reason we saw it so many times is because there was basically 5 places that there was at least 5 crucifixes in the room. So in any given scene, you could almost count 5 drinks because of the crucifixes.
So sometimes when we're making rules, it's just a swing and a miss.
Some of the rules that we did keep in was Miss Mullins and her fucking bell. That one gave us a decent amount of drinks. And I just wanted to point out that it seems like the rules we did include, it was either a single-digit number for rules, or it was above 20 drinks per rule. And it didn't seem like there was very many in between. Maybe there was 1 or 2 rules that had 10 to 15 drinks, but for the most part they were all above 20 or even 30 in some cases.
It was rough for the most part, yeah.
Yeah, obviously with a drink total of 164, that gives us an average of 16.4 drinks per rule. So there's going to be a lot of drinking and it's going to be challenging, but because of the variation in scales for how much drinks per rule there was, it was pretty difficult, I will say.
I would agree to that. I guess on to the movie in general. I feel like the second Annabelle movie is by far in many ways an upgrade to the first one. Absolutely,
it's way better than the first one. It doesn't completely rip off another movie like the first one did, being Rosemary's Baby. It kind of gave a nod to The Ring, I feel like, in some ways.
Oh yeah.
Like The Girl in the Well, for example. But it didn't play off of that and for the whole movie. It just kind of showed it in a little bit.
That was one of my favorite scenes in the movie, where she takes the Annabelle that's sitting next to Janice, drops it into the well, goes back to Janice, like, Janice, I got rid of the doll, and she screams because Annabelle's under the covers, like, oh no, they dropped Janice in the well instead. I guess another noteworthy thing in the film is that Mr. Mullins looked a little bit like a serial killer.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, he was always looking at the girls when they were talking about boys. He had a hammer in his hand looking at the girls for like a solid 10 seconds at least.
Yeah, he didn't just glance over, he just like was looking at them.
Yeah, just staring.
Like, solidly for like a good 10 seconds and just like scoffed and walked away.
Yeah.
I guess the other noteworthy thing of Mr. Mullins is that he tries to stand up to the Annabelle demon by holding a cross in its face. And he kills him by ripping off his fingers. The whole, this little piggy went to the market, this little piggy stayed home.
Yeah.
And once that happens, they decide to stay in the house when somebody's clearly been murdered in the residence, and they're just like, just stay in the murder scene, it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little questionable. One point that I would like to make about Annabelle 2 is the kids acting in this movie was good. Not only was it good, but it was better than the adults in Annabelle 1.
Oh, 100%.
So we had Janice, who was played by Talitha Bateman, and Linda, who was played by Lulu Wilson. They were both phenomenal, and I feel like their dynamic together, they just worked so well together, and they made it really believable that they were actually friends in real life.
But yeah, that's the thing. You compare it to the first Annabelle movie, where you feel like the two lead, like the husband and wife, I feel like they did not have a lot of like chemistry on set.
Yeah, exactly.
On set, on screen, it just wasn't there for me in comparison to the second one. How the two kids, or even like the sister and Janice, had better synergy than that.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know, it just felt like there was more emotion put into the roles than in the first one. It kind of felt like they were just stoned in the first one almost.
Oh yeah. I guess going on to Janice and Linda, they decided to go into Annabelle's room against their better judgment. And the one thing that Linda attaches herself to is like a little ball toy.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's one cool ass ball toy. I'd want that.
Yeah, I would take it too.
Good choice. From a haunted room, that's your one item you're taking, but yeah, whatever.
But despite stealing that toy, at least she was smart enough to hold on to the rope pulley that basically prevented her from getting caught by the demon. So yeah, that was at least one smart thing she did in that situation. So Linda's best friend Janice, the girl with polio, she ends up getting possessed. But I guess that's one upside to both the demons, is they cure polio. Downside is they murder your friends, but hey, at least you're cured.
She can walk.
Oh my god, I don't even see Jesus doing that when I pray.
Sister Charlotte said to have faith and evil will only target you if you're weak of faith. But she pretty much just ignores that comment, and because the house is evil, it still results in a bunch of shit happening.
Yeah, people getting possessed, people getting killed, people in the future getting killed from the possession.
Yeah.
That's another thing. So You do not sleep in that house alone when you know it's haunted. I would not have slept like downstairs, upstairs. I would have slept with Sister Charlotte if I was any of those little girls.
Oh yeah, especially the ones that are being attacked by the demon. Even if you hear about it though, you would think a child would be more scared.
Oh yeah, 100%. So there was one continuity error in the film. It was in the very end, the climax, where I think it was Linda in the closet. She sees the Annabelle doll, and then I think Janice opens the closet door, says, "Found ya," and then she's screaming there for a second, tries to run away, and then Sister Charlotte suddenly has the doll for some reason.
And then she ends up throwing it in the closet.
Yeah, she ends up throwing it in the closet where it already was.
Yeah.
So good job on that.
Yeah.
I guess the other controversy is, so there was a contest that you got to meet David Sandberg if you won the contest for making a short movie for something kind of based around the Conjuring universe.
Mm-hmm.
So in this contest, you would get $50. Warner Brothers would legally own your idea for 3 years for $50.
Sounds worth it to me.
Oh yeah. The main incentive for the contest is you gotta actually go out and meet David Sandberg or somebody from New Line Cinema if you won the contest.
Mm-hmm.
But it says also, again in the contract, that if you're not able to or they're not able to, then you won't get a substitute. You won't get to do that. So now at this point they legally own your idea for $50 and you don't even get your winnings of the contest pretty much.
Yeah, it's kind of on the fence whether you're going to get to meet him or not.
So on top of that, they also have one more part about that. The final part in this contest, they will give you an amount if they create a feature-length film on your movie. Do you want to take a guess how much they're going to pay you for stealing your movie idea?
I mean, realistically, they should give you some good chunk of change, but I have a feeling it's only a couple $100.
It's another $50.
Of course it is.
So you get $100 for them stealing your idea. I guess overall, besides the contest, how are your overall thoughts on the film?
Overall, I like this Annabelle. I liked it a hell of a lot better than the first one, and I'd say it's one of the better spin-offs in the whole Conjuring universe as a whole. The character dynamic was good. The storyline felt complete in this one, and it didn't linger on the story for too long like it did in the first one.
Yeah, I agree with you on all of your points. I guess the one thing that I disliked about the movie is it wasn't necessary at all. If anything, it added more plot holes into the first movie. So in that, it's very, very confusing. So like, questions that it raises, for example, is why did the demon want to go back into the doll in the first movie? That makes absolutely zero sense.
Yeah.
Second of all, it's the biggest coincidence ever for the doll to be literally next door to the parents that adopted Janice or Annabelle.
Yeah, those are both very good points, and that's one reason why it might not be the best movie in the Conjuring universe, but it might be up there for sure.
Oh yeah. It's like this should have been created instead of the first one.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
And finally, we come to the award ceremony, where we will award one not-so-lucky nominee the Darwin Award. This award goes out to a character who made a stupid decision that resulted in them getting killed, someone else getting killed, or simply something bad happening that could have been easily avoided. This award can also be given to a character that is just plain dumb. Here are the nominees.
Today's first nominee is the Mullins, for knowing they have an evil doll in their house, but thinking it is a good idea to let 6 little orphans come into their house and put them in danger too.
Next, we have Janice, for going into the room they specifically asked her not to enter, resulting in releasing Annabelle. Curiosity might have killed the cat, but curiosity also got the little girl possessed.
Finally, we have Sister Charlotte, for not completely understanding Janice's concern when she says that the house is haunted and that she and everybody else are in danger. If she even told this to Mr. Mullins, he and his wife would still be alive, and Janice wouldn't have gotten possessed.
And the winner is the Mullins, for putting the other people in danger. It is also worth mentioning that they caused their own deaths because they let little girls into the house that would break rules that are important to enforce for everybody else's survival. If they didn't let anybody into the house, there also wouldn't have been any other Darwin Award nominees.
And with all that being said, we hope you enjoyed today's episode of Annabelle Creation. If you end up playing the game alongside the movie, or if you have any feedback or suggestions, let us know in the comments below. Also let us know, what is your favorite Conjuring spin-off?
Make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss our next episode, where we will of course be looking at Annabelle Comes Home, the 3rd Annabelle film. If you want to check out our most recent video on Annabelle, click on the box on the top right. If you want to click on a playlist of all of our drinking games, click on the box below it. Thanks for tuning in, and this is us saying, cheers to fears.